seriously, what is up with Google Plus? Why have I had so many issues today trying to deal with Google Plus? Like, oh my god. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gw2 Storytime. Today we are going back in time to the South Sun updates. You'll notice that there's a lot of short stories around this stuff because, frankly, there was a fair amount of content about this area of the world too. This story is called Welcome to Paradise, and I know that section of the living story for a lot of players is kind of difficult to recollect, and a lot of people aren't really sure on all of the details. Even I went over them in a living story recap video that I did, 2 videos, and even now for me as well, it's kind of blurry looking back on it. But this story is pretty good, talking about Ellen Keel's involvement, what the consortium were doing, and really just sort of helps to solidify that. So I think it is a fun one. It's by Scott McGough. I don't know how to say his second name. On the 16th of May, 2013. Can you believe it was this long ago? So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's cut into it. The ship's gangplank descended, and Inspector Ellen Keel girded herself to greet the new arrivals. The word from on high was to keep all visitors to South Sun Cove as alive and intact as possible, and Captain Magnus was counting on her to deliver. Magnus navigated the dangerous waters of the Captain's Council politics on behalf of the entire Lion Guard. The least Keel could do to support him was play hostess to the clueless rich folk bamboozled by consortium promises of fun in the sun. Letting new arrivals on the island without proper warning had proven disastrous in the past. Injured tourists impacted the consortium's development plans, which impacted the councillors who took consortium money, which impacted Magnus, which impacted the entire Lion Guard. So Keel stood with a tight half smile and a look of optimism she didn't feel. At least it was a small group. A few Char and a handful of Norn, each probably bound for careers as facilitators or troubleshooters, or whatever the consortium was calling its hired goons these days. New to South Sun Cove? Keel called. One of the Char showed her the consortium insignia on his armour and grinned. "We work here," he said. Keel swore to herself. She should have recognised at least some of the group, but between the refugees and the consortium hires, who were sometimes one and the same, there were too many new faces to track. Keel prepared to slip away just as one last passenger emerged to disembark. She was a striking blonde woman in a gold ensemble that struck Keel as somehow indecent and elegant at the same time. The woman was clearly cultured, maybe even nobility, perfect poise, a graceful lilt to her step, her expression composed and serene. Her eyes were anxious, however, and Keel recognised the look of someone preoccupied with a serious problem. Intrigued, Keel stepped forward and said, "Welcome to South Sun Cove, my lady. Have you been to our island before?" The blonde noble's eyes widened, and then lost all traces of nervousness. "Thank you so much," she said, and her voice was every bit as refined and engaging as the rest of her. "This is actually my first visit." She extended her hand. "Lady Casimir Mead. Please, call me Casimir." Inspector Keel of the Lion Guard. Keel took the elegant hand and shook it. Lady Casimir's grip was firm. Her nails were perfectly manicured and her skin well cared for, but it was not the hand of someone who had never done a hard day's work. One of the ship's portholes opened near the bow, and a wiry man in fine clothes clumsily forced himself through. Stowaway, Keel thought. Keel released Casimir's hand and watched the man's awkward progress through the tiny opening. When his hips cleared the porthole, he let out a soft yelp and then made a large splash in the ocean below. Eventually, the stowaway's hand clamped on the dock edge and he hauled himself up. His brown hair was plastered to his skull and his expensive suit was soaked clean through. Dripping and shivering, he rolled over onto his back and wheezed, sucking in air and coughing out misty clouds of seawater. Lady Casimir glanced over towards the dock. Mild annoyance wrinkled her perfect features. "Excuse me, my lady." Keel nodded toward the man and cracked her knuckles eagerly. "I have to go toss someone into the brig." "There's no need for that," Casimir said. "He's an old friend. I'm trying to avoid old friends on this trip, but believe me, he's no threat. But he is a stowaway, and he's on my island, which makes him my problem. I'll vouch for him. Not happily, but if he creates any trouble while he's here, I'll answer for it." Keel paused, noting Casimir's gentle determination. The noblewoman wasn't scared of the man, but she wasn't exactly happy to see him. "Want me to delay him?" Keel said. "That would at least give you a chance to get clear." "No, thank you," Casimir said. But if you could steer me toward the resort on Pearl Islet, I'd be extremely grateful. I'll do better than that, Keel said. I'm scheduled to patrol of the island anyway. I'd be happy to serve as your tour guide and bodyguard until you reach the resort. Though that would mean leaving your friend to fend for himself. He's made it this far alone. Kazmir's tone was light and unconcerned, but her eyes were sharp. But you said bodyguard. Is the island that dangerous? I'm afraid so. The local wildlife tends to lash out. The local residents aren't much better. Even at the resort? Let's just say you should be safe inside the walls, my lady. Just don't go out on the beach alone. Please, Kazmir. And thanks for the advice. I work for a private investigator in Divinity's Reach, and I'm meeting a few potential clients for dinner on Pearl Islet. I don't imagine they'll serve us outdoors. She smiled, a warm, dazzling smile. Not at the prices they quoted me, anyway. The stowaway grunted as he forced himself to sit up on the dock. He squeezed the sleeve of his silk jacket and returned the seawater to its home. Seriously, Keel's eyes darted over to the man. If he's part of any problems you have, tell me. I'm the chief problem solver around here. You're very kind, Kazmir said. But Lord Farron is one of the few nobles in DR who isn't a problem. He comes with his own set of challenges, but at least he doesn't... Kazmir caught herself and then briefly smiled again. He doesn't judge people for circumstances beyond their control. A rare bird, then, Keel said. The world needs more people like that. I quite agree. But right now, if you please, I'm eager to see this island of yours. I'll get you to the resort. After that, if you need any help at any time, for any reason, call the nearest line guard and ask for me. I shall, rest assured, Kazmir said, smiling her brilliant smile. South Sun Cove may be more troubled than advertised, but I feel quite safe with its chief problem solver on my side. In the distance, Keel heard the shriek of a carca and the roar of a reef drake. She imagined them tearing into one another and anyone else within striking distance. She pictured the consortium troubleshooters squaring off against unruly residents. She considered the sharks in the water, the reef riders in the hills, and the treacherous riptides that had pulled careless bathers deep out into the sea. She wondered if people like Kazmir would ever be safe here, no matter who was on their side. This way, Keel stopped herself in time and said, Kazmir, I know you'll have a memorable stay. Now, let's get you safely to your accommodations, and then safely home again. People like Kazmir would be safe here, Keel told herself. They had to be. It was her job to make them safe, and Captain Magnus was counting on her. So, I think one of the things this story is best for, right now it's still relevant, of course, because Lady Kazmir is going on with all the Tower of Nightmares stuff, which is fantastic. All these descriptions of how she's so paradoxically perfect. There's one specific line up at the top that I just love, where it's basically, oh, she's sexy but elegant at the same time, like, and it's this balance that, you know, a woman would always try to strike when they go out, and Lady Kazmir has somehow achieved it. You know, and there's all these lines about how, oh, she's got these perfect smooth hands, but they've also done hard work, and, you know, these are impossibilities. And I think that maybe if you read through the lines, it's more than just the writer trying to give you an impression of this character, but also we've got the fact we know full well she's a mesmer, and she's a damn powerful one at that. There's actually been some pretty funny theories. I think most people are joking when they say it, but there's been some funny theories about how, you know, she is not the person that we think she is, that she's completely fake, right, and that she is all just an illusion, and really she's quite ugly. And I quite like that, you know, because she's a mesmer, and as a mesmer, I'm going to say, if I was in Tyria and I was a mesmer, I would use, you know, illusions and stuff to, you know, dab myself up. That'd be pretty cool. And I can imagine, you know, a noble woman in this position. Yeah, definitely. So we do get to see a fair bit about Kazmir here. There are also theories that came out from the advent of this story about how she was specifically there on behalf of Marjorie. Marjorie, who, at this point in the story, I kind of feel like was the more significant character, right? Marjorie Delacroix was the hidden character in the background right now, and we hadn't really met her because Dragon Bash hadn't happened. But now, you know, I think Kazmir is coming to her own as well, but at this point, when this story came out, it was, who's this mysterious person she's working on behalf of? What exactly is she investigating? And we still don't know fully what her business was on that island, but obviously it ties into all these conspiracies about E, and, you know, did E tell Marjorie to tell Kazmir to go to the South Sun Cove during all these events? Who knows? And I like it again because it's another, like, a glimpse at the events that took place there without even diving into everything that happened with Kanak and Subdirector Null and so forth. You know, this was just another snippet. And I enjoy that. It also quite clearly lays out to us why the Lion Guard were bothered at all. It's basically because the Consortium were filling the pockets of the Council, and if the Consortium are in trouble, then the Council's in trouble, and obviously they pull on Magnus. Magnus being the leader of the Lion Guard and has a seat on the Council. So we can see how that chain ended up involving Keel here. Does anybody miss Keel? I'm going to ask. Anybody? I don't know. I read these stories and it's like, I wonder what Keel's doing. She got such a bad rap. Every character in the living story is getting a bad rap from the player base. Like, is there anyone that people just universally liked? Anyone? Evan Nashblade, maybe? You know, I think he's a great character and I like him, but is he really living story? I mean, he was a character before the living story even happened. What about Magnus? There's like, the characters that have nothing of note, people have nothing to say, but as soon as they become prominent, everybody hates them. Man, it's like the ArenaNet curse right now, and is it just from bad writing or what? But anyway, this is the story. I don't have too much more to add on it because it's sort of becoming a little bit of ancient history here. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you found some insight to be had here, and I guess I'll see you next time for the next story, which should be Braham's story. We had Rox's Tale, but there's actually one on Braham too, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. Anyway, thank you again very much, guys. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you next time.